good afternoon, everyone. Ryan told you guys that I'm Mike Calizo. I actually live here in Wellington for about 10 years before I moved back to Australia. So as a customer success manager, what I do really is to be in front of the customer and understand the business case and then translate that to a technical solution. But today, I'm not here to talk about my job. I'm here to talk about how to adapt Debsec Ops successfully. Okay. Now, this is a figure from European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. And if you look at that, these are the cybersecurity threats that we are facing right now. There are things that everybody must have been aware: DDoS, the phishing attacks, and also the ransomware. In DDoS, last year, it increases to about 36%. That's from 2021 to 2022. The phishing attacks increases to 11%. And also for the ransomware payouts, the enterprise actually paid about $20 billion to get away from that attacks. And thanks to cryptocurrency, bad guys enabled them to get payouts through their attacks. Now, I want to dig deeper about the ransomware, because this is a very interesting figures if you think about it. If your security is weak, you'll easily get into trouble. And we've seen this happening locally, right? The cost in 2021 is $20 billion. 37% of all business and organizations were hit by ransomware. I don't know if your organization were hit, but what are the chances that someone here actually has an experience? And recovering from this attack cost $1.85 million on average. So I'm not here to scare you guys. I'm just giving you the figures. Now, if you think about it, everybody in this room has a target on its back. And I think this is the reason why we really need to think about pivoting into adopting DevSecOps. And just a disclaimer, I am not a security practitioner. But what I'm going to tell you is a story that I learned from dealing with different customers. As I mentioned, as Ben mentioned earlier, I worked for Red Hat for about 5 years as a solutions architect and exposed on a global customers, not only local. And also, I've worked for Elasticsearch right now, which basically, my job really is to focus on federal government customer in Australia. So the story that I am going to share is all the experience and what I learned from dealing with different customers. So before we talk about DevSecOps adoption, I think it's better to really understand where we are right now, or where you guys are right now. And because I believe that those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So the current security practice. You guys familiar with this picture? Where developers and designer plan, design, build, and test in sandbox or development environment. And if they think it's ready, they then ask security, hey, security, can you come in and check whether our implementation here is actually within the alignment of your security requirements? And most of the time, in this kind of practice, security can cause bottleneck. It can cause delay. And because it causes delay, at the end, it also causes money for the enterprise. And on top of that, it actually causes rupture within the team. people starts blaming security. But it's not a security problem. They are just doing their job. Another situation that I've seen as well is security is only used as audit because auditor comes in and they found out that, hey, there is a loophole in this implementation that data breach can happen anytime. And then they come in, security comes in, do an audit, run an ESOS, and give developers thousands of pages of what they're finding. And do you think it can help you? So again, this is happening everywhere. Now, I think it's important here to actually look at the Deb Sec Ops Manifesto. And the gist on this really is security needs to be engaged as early as possible and really be embedded into a development lifecycle. And all of this can save money, effort, and cultural problem within the organization. And the picture that we should be looking is like this, where security are involved in planning, involved in design, going to build, test, and then maintain. And if you imagine this is actually a Mobius loop of DevOps practice, right? Where iteration and continuous development and continuous integration, security are embedded. Now, I really like this statement. Business strategy is achieved with collaboration of all departments and provides in service to customer who requires better, faster, cheaper, and secure products and services. I want to highlight the better, faster, cheaper, because that's what business want, and I would like to highlight secure. And to be able to do that, the teams needs to collaborate. And what I think is important here to understand is you need to change the culture of the team as well. So, what I want to do, and this is again based on my learnings, is the common DevSecOps adoption obstacles that I see. First and foremost, I work for a vendor, but first and foremost, vendor defined DevOps and DevSecOps practice. A vendor comes into the company, tells you that this product can do this, you follow and implement it, and you can attain DevOps or DevSecOps. Well, is it really? Because you need to think about the skills of your team. You need to think about the current security practice of your team. And you need to think about how you're going to maintain that as well. And where are you going to help? To get help, I mean. Nervous people manager. We are human, and human are created to be, to be able to do things repeatedly. And I think that's a human behavior. And every time changes are introduced, people get nervous. And because of this, most of the time, if you are talking to the people, hey, let's do DevOps, let's do DevSecOps. Oops, if we do that, am I going to lose my job? That's the first thing that you think about, or at least me before. And also, that the saying, if ain't broke, don't fix it. We have a very strong security practice here. Why are we going to adapt to that? We've been doing this for 20 years, no breach at all. Well, think about bad guys are now getting smarter. Bad guys are now getting paid untraceable because of cryptocurrency. They now have reasons to actually attack your organization. The Netflix and over effect. Everybody hear a good story about Netflix and over. Everybody wants to be an over on Netflix. It's not really possible. Because first and foremost, they have their own culture. They have hundreds of developers who are actually, not afraid of adapting to the new practice. And overall, you are not over, you are not Netflix. You need to have your own ways of doing DevSecOps or pivoting to a proper security practice. Lack of measurement and visibility. Very, very important. How can you tell that your DevSecOps or DevOps adoption in that matter is successful? You can say, we did DevSecOps and DevOps. We can now release on a weekly basis. Really? How about the MTTR? How about the recovery? How about the patching and everything? You need to measure so that you can understand where to fix, and what process you need to adjust. Checklist-driven security. Have you seen the security checklist in Excel file? Yeah. So really, that might not be possible in a cloud-native environment because different approach. You need to be agile. If you're going to go to the list of 100 or 200 checklist, is it going to be worth it? And security as a special team, a culture problem. People think that security is very, very important. They are the one who are the gatekeeper of the application, but are they really? Are they supposed to be empowered like that? I think it needs to be collaboration, right? Now, I talk about the obstacle. Let's talk about my proposition on how to adapt to DevSecOps. So, first and foremost, I think it's very important to have a cultural change. In all the customers that I've been involved, DevSecOps adoption is successful if there is an executive buy-in and top-down approach. People in the executive branch just telling them, let's go DevSecOps, because if there is no instruction like that, I, as a sysadmin, because I'm a sysadmin by heart, I'm just going to do what I want, right? Find your champion. These are the people that is going to be the advocate of your adoption. It's not easy to find this person, but this person needs to have a proper understanding and the picture of what you want to end up. Understood the value proposition of your adoption and making sure that they can elaborate and talk to different levels within the company. You need to establish a cross-functional team. As I mentioned earlier, DevSecOps involves not only DevSecOps, network people as well, and even people that are end user in the customer land. You need to start small. I think it's very important to start small on a practice that is new so that you can celebrate the win and use that in many conversation moving forward. Because you now have a reference that you implemented it locally, not comparing the implementation in Uber or Netflix, right? And you need to define success. How are you going to define success? You need to make sure that, you have that measurement of your adoption. You have, you can tell yourself that I can now release new features in days or hours without a problem. And use the power of data, because the power of data is actually very powerful when it comes to adoption of DevSecOps. And I will talk a bit about this, actually. So, when we measure our adoption, you need to get an understanding on application change time, application deployment frequency, change failure rate, issue resolution, MTTR, and time to value. Are you guys familiar with this, words that I just said? These are very, very important that you guys understood this, because business needs to buy in on this practice as well. Now, when it comes to the power of data, what I want to talk about here is, with data, what do you do with your logs? What do you do with your metrics? You can use that to enable real-time decision making. And real-time decision-making allows you to actually react and to be able to protect and change whatever is missing in your implementation. You can use data to accelerate DevSecOps pipeline. And of course, by providing analytics and real-time decision-making, you can then implement security at scale. So the learning here that I want to share is that for you to adapt to DevSecOps or DevOps, you really need to have a cultural change. And I think it's very, very important that I put that on top. Because all that obstacle that I mentioned earlier are actually related to culture. Culture within the team. You need to have executive buy-in. But executive buy-in alone will not work if you are not transforming to the culture that enables you to iterate and to follow the Mobius loop in DevOps picture. You need to have a cross-functional team. You need to have a champion, and you need to have, and you should be able to use the power of data in your advantage. But then again, ultimately, cultural change is what you need to be able to successfully adapt to DevSecOps. And that's basically my talk, and happy to answer questions.